Baldy. I can't promise Aditi, and that's because she is joining us right now. Aditi, what's up?
There she is.
I'm in my brother's childhood bedroom. That's Evander Holyfield back there.
Nice. That's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
This is like a trip down memory lane. He's got autographs from Grant Hill, Chris Webber, Jerry Stackhouse.
Now,
some
how old
Mets
is your
player
brother?
up there. I don't even know who it is.
How old is your
How
brother?
old is he now?
Yeah.
Well, he's in his late 30s now.
Don't
He's
know
a
how
dad.
old your brother is?
Well, here's what I love.
Well, I kind of
love that
don't
your
want to
parents-
reveal it because then someone could do the math and figure out how old I am.
That's okay. Listen. What I love about that is that your parents, because I have two that haven't lived in our home for years and years, and we've actually sold a home and moved into our new home. And when we set up two of the bedrooms, we set them up as if Kirsten and Corey was coming home tonight to sleep.
Right.
And I love that your parents still do that, and they like it when they do come home.
Here's
Mr.
Mr. Met. and my brother was a Giants fan. So I don't know what he's doing with this, but here's a Jets that my daughter just a Giants keychain, and she wanted to know if she's home, and she's supposed to be the Browns fan, but
Wow.
I don't know. Is it fair game if it's in my brother's room and his own son hasn't claimed it yet?
Yes.
Sure.
Aditi, let's...
It's funny, though, that you say that, Jay, because my dad, every time we come home, my dad's like, take stuff home. Just get it out of here. You have a house of your own.
I mean,
He's given
get
me,
it out of
like,
his house
all my
already.
schoolwork. I know. Exactly. He wants to clear us out. Anyway, go ahead.
Aditi, did you think Deshaun Watson would have played more had the weather been, had there been no rain? Or was that, you think that was the plan all along?
Yeah, no, that was the plan. I mean, the idea going in was about 15 plays. And it was, if they had this great 6-play drive, that would have been it. If it was 2, 3 and outs, that would have been it. And I think other than not punching in it at the end, which of course is frustrating, I think that the drive went as well as they wanted it to go. He was in control. He marched them downfield. He was absolutely in command of the huddle. And you have to understand that you get down to the goal line. You don't have your number 1 running back in Nick Chubb. You don't have your number 2 running back in Jerome Ford. And you're certainly not going to sit here and show everything that you would show otherwise.
Yeah.
So,
It's fair.
and Jacoby Brissett, P.S., I know that Kevin Stefanski called him a Hall of Fame teammate, but the way that guys greeted him on the field before the game, the way that he greeted us, I mean, I saw him and I just had the biggest smile. He's doing well, and his new teammates love him also, but he's a guy that'll be missed for sure.
I gotta say, Aditi, I'm bothered by this. Here in Cleveland, we obsess over slappies. And it bothers me. It drives me crazy. Let's stop obsessing over slappies. Let's get excited about Hall of Famers. Jacoby Brissett was here 2 seconds. He had a losing record. I don't give a rat's ass about Jacoby Brissett.
Okay, well, you know what? He's a nice man. He's a nice man. And since you were just talking about Johnny Manziel, you talk about Johnny Manziel that this city obsessed over.
Right. Yes,
who couldn't
another
even watch
slappy.
any film, right, who couldn't watch any film. And then you've got a guy who comes in and does exactly what's asked of him, goes about his job in a complete professional manner, is a date. I think it's a nice thing. Sorry. It's not
And they
obsessive,
didn't have a
but it's,
losing
let's
record.
at least give the man his due.
And they didn't have a losing record because of him.
Right.
He was a victim of some really bad defense.
No, here's where I'm on Aditi's side on this, because he walked into a broken team and a broken locker room that was on fire.
He held that
What
team together.
side? I'm just saying I'm sick of all the talk about Jacoby Brissett.
but
winning organizations don't do that stuff.
Okay, fine, but
you know that.
No, but this is where I
You
think
put his picture, it's not them talking about it. You put his picture up. And so I just said it as a side. You know, it was nice to see him. It was nice to see him greeted. And hey, it was a mark of professionalism after years and years and years of questionable professionalism. Here's a guy that brought some professionalism to that locker room.
Yeah, he was a good example.
Yes.
His teammates gravitated to him. It's what's interesting is it's almost never that a player does that, comes into an organization such a brief time, and has the universal stamp of love from the fans, the media, and his teammates.
Right.
And he's not here anymore.
Well, listen, I'm going to get to this. I want to talk about the teams that are actually active right at this point. I think the rival in my head for offseason rosters is the New York Jets for some reason, Aditi. Because I look at the New York Jets as a team that is trying to get where we're wanting to go. They didn't make the playoffs last year. They made some upgrades. Now they look to be a viable team that could possibly make the playoffs like the Cleveland Browns. What are your thoughts on them and Dalvin Cook? And whose roster do you like better right now, the Jets or the Browns?
If we are talking roster, as in whole roster, what 1 to 53 will be, then I'll take the Browns. I think signing Aaron Rodgers is a massive move in a million ways that has a ton of tentacles to it that are all positive in terms of the teammate that he is, the level of professionalism he brings, the way that he automatically gives that team swagger that they are most definitely in every single game. All of that counts for a significant amount. But look, we just got off of our production meeting with Kevin Stefanski, and I was asking him about how he felt his roster stacked up against the Eagles this year versus a year ago. You'll have to tune in Thursday night to get the full answer. Okay. But we can all at least use our brains and say, hey, there are a lot more veterans on this Browns roster, especially on that defensive line. Dalvin Tomlinson, Ogbo. I need to make sure that I say it right before I say it on air. And you know what's so funny about it is that I said it right last year when I had the Texans. But anyway, you know who I'm talking about. Zadarius Smith. All of these guys, you get these grown men, these grown front. You're going to notice that against offensive line go when there were all these questions about the interior of the defensive line and the defensive line in general outside of Myles Garrett, really. So I think that you look at this secondary, you look at the Browns secondary, you see the way that they will be deployed by Jim Schwartz, being able to cover just so much more. You see Juan Thornhill, who's a guy who won a Super Bowl and knows how to go about getting in that big game. You see MJ Emerson, who's in year 2 and who's even stickier than he was a year ago and even more confident than he was a year ago. You see this defensive front. You see what Elijah Moore brings to that wide receiver room and what that rookie Cedric Tillman has brought and how exciting that's been. I mean, it's really hard. I look at the Browns right now. I have some questions at linebacker, and I'm curious to see who the third running back is, who may not even be on this roster yet. And I feel great about the quarterback room. I feel great about the wide receiver room. I feel great about the tight ends. I feel tremendous about the offensive line. I mean, I keep going. Where are you feeling that there are holes and you're really nervous?
Linebacker.
Where are you feeling like that? Okay.
The only thing I'm nervous about is quarterback.
Well,
really?
It's just because it's the unknown. I mean, and it's the most important position on the field, clearly. And this team is going to go as the quarterback goes. I'm assuming
if he's back to what he was, there's nothing I'm concerned about.
Right. I'm assuming that he's going. I'm not saying he's going to be back to what he was. Yeah. I think he's going to be markedly better than the Deshaun Watson we saw last year, and that's what we need. But I mean, based on everything else, Aditi, I think G and I don't know where Jay is, but we talked about this yesterday. Just don't feel like we have the quality or the depth at linebacker. That's my only concern.
And that's very fair. I will tell you this about the quarterback situation. I was on the field watching that first drive from Deshaun Watson. He is night and day from where he was a year ago.
How so?
In command of the huddle, command of the huddle, the speed with which he is seeing what's on the field and getting rid of the ball. The ability to manage what's happening in the game, what's happening in front of him, and what his decision-making has to be. His ease with Kevin Stefanski and Alex Van Pelt when he comes off and when he's talking about what he's seen and what he wants to do. The plays, this is where Kevin Stefanski is one of those guys that's, I don't care what plays I like. I want to run the quarterback. They are so on the same page. But here's what I'll leave you with. You all know I'm married to a Steelers season ticket holder. You all know I am married to a Steelers diehard. You know that he went to Pitt, so he obviously loves Kenny Pickett. Right. I came home on Saturday, and I said to my husband, you better watch out. That's what I said. And he started saying, pew, 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 poo, poo, because he wanted to talk about his Steelers. Yeah. And I said, yeah. And you know what's funny about that is that his cousin, our cousin David, grew up in Ohio. And he said, I've heard this every single year from Browns fans. Right. And I was like, I'm not saying this as a fan. I'm saying it as someone who is a trained observer in the National Football League, who is standing on the field. And they don't want to buy it. But hey, I gave my fair warning. I said, mark it down. Deshaun Watson is not going to be who you saw last year.
Good. See, that makes me feel 100% better. I expect him to be better. I watched with my eyes. I needed to see more of it. It's too small of a sample size. Hopefully we'll get to see him in the last preseason significantly more than we did in preseason game number 2. But what I saw, it checked all the boxes. But I'm not ready to say, I'm not going to call a Steeler fan I know and say, you better watch out. Yeah. I'm not there yet. I'm glad you are, because you got a better view of it
I'm just saying, you know what, because it is par for the course for people in the AFC North to just automatically dismiss the Browns. Whatever. Okay, it's going to be the Bengals, the Ravens, and the Steelers battling for the top spot in the division. And so my saying, you better watch out, it's sort of like you are underestimating them at your own peril.
Yeah. Right.
You are assuming that Deshaun Watson is washed. You are assuming that a year and a half is too long off, or whatever it was, that he's just not going to get there. You do that. You do that at your own risk. That's all I'm saying about this. Not that linebacker is insignificant. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Adam.
No. Finish. Go ahead, finish.
No, just that. Not that that's insignificant. Right. Not that. You can get by without decent linebackers. And obviously the news about Jacob Phillips, who's a young player who, unfortunately, I was so excited for a year ago, he just can't stay healthy. Who even knows if he's good or bad? I guess if you're saying that your best ability is your availability, then maybe that tracks. But I feel bad for him. I'm sorry about that. But let's see what Andrew Berry does, because obviously there's still time to make moves.
I'm with you. I'm not worried about linebacker. They have injury-prone guys. I think they're good enough if they're healthy. But as the resident Bengals fan here, I am not ignoring the Browns. I am ignoring the Steelers. And now I've done that to some degree to my own peril, but the Steelers are not that good. I don't think. I think the Steelers, to me, are still the most likely team to finish in last place this year. Do you agree or no?
No, I don't agree.
Who you got?
I think the defense has multiple game breakers on it, right? TJ Watt and Minkah Fitzpatrick are both players that can affect a game completely. Alex Highsmith has a new contract, and having TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith healthy and playing at those outside linebacker spots is a really big deal. That defense should once again shore up to being one of the top 5 defenses in the league. And so then you look at that offense. Kenny Pickett has made major gains, and he's that I cringe. I wish I had a better comparison, because I don't want to use the comparison I'm going to use that I was. It is just the guy who's the first one in the building. He's the last one out. Not going to ever let anybody outwork him. He's going to drill every single thing that he knows, even in his sleep. The gains that he has made are so significant. George Pickens is absolutely a 1A in the two of them have tremendous rapport. And they improved their offensive line. Their offensive line and their run game were Achilles' heels early in the season last year. Yeah. The run game was sort of added on the plate of the offensive line coach. That then improved in the second half of the season. They went and they shored up that offensive line in the offseason. It needed to be an area of focus. I'm unwilling to say that they're patsies, they're pushovers, that you're done. And then
no
matter what you have to say about Mike Tomlin, but it's not. They're just not an automatic basement dweller. I'm sorry.
And we've learned you can't kick dirt on this team ever.
I'm just saying they're most likely.
I take issue with Mike Tomlin's lack of postseason wins, but come on, Mike Tomlin's teams are always competitive. Right, even if Duck Hodges is their starting quarterback, they are always competitive. Yeah, so you can't just automatically say, okay, that's the basement team.
So, Aditi, what you're saying is the AFC North is the best division in football.
I didn't say they wouldn't be competitive. I'm just saying I think if I had to look at, you got to pick one team. You got to say, if I ask you the question, which team is most likely to finish last, none of these teams feel like a traditional last place team, including the Steelers. I agree with you. But if I were betting on who most likely finishes last, I would bet on the Steelers. Maybe not by overwhelming numbers, but they would. Who else would you pick? Who would you pick? The Ravens?
I mean, I don't know, right? We still need to see. Look, first of all, I think that the last place team could be a 9-7 team. So to your point, it may not be a traditional last place team.
Could be, yeah.
I still have some questions about the Ravens defense. I need to learn more about that Ravens defense. J.K. Dobbins is only just now getting back on the field. Lamar Jackson can tell me that he's going to throw for 6,000 yards in this Todd Monken offense, and he loves all his shiny new toys at receiver, but let's see it.
He's got to do it, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
But I mean, as long as Roquan Smith is in that defense, I like that defense, but that is a really tough question, Bull. Hell, I don't know who's going to finish last.
I mean, I think a lot of people nationally would pick the Browns as the most likely.
Well, they're the easy pick.
Yeah.
And they were last
but
year.
that's based on name, right? That's based almost on like the reputation more
History.
so than it is anybody that's actually looking at the roster.
Well, that's where we usually finish.
But all 4 teams have pretty good rosters. No team in this division has a bad roster. So, I just think the Steelers clearly, to me, have the worst quarterback. Maybe that'll turn out not to be the case, but that's why ultimately I think they're the most likely to finish last.
I think that's fair. If you're
They have
lining
the
up the
greenest.
quarterbacks,
They
he
have
would
the
be picked
greenest
fourth.
quarterback.
Yeah.
Sure,
But
they have the greenest quarterback.
And in an open draft, he'd be the last one taken. But that doesn't mean, to Didi's point, that he hasn't made significant gains. And that was the quarterback we saw last year. He might come out this year and play gangbusters and work his way right into that. It's not a good division to be in, guys.
Yeah.
This is really a bad division for the Browns to be in right now. It always is, but worse this year than ever.
Aditi, I want to go back to something you said earlier, and you've got my reporter senses tingling now when you were talking about Deshaun, and you think like the rust is gone basically, and he could have a big year. How do you think he's going to be perceived nationally in the media? If he comes out and balls out, how will he be covered?
I think that it's sort of like the hug with Roger Goodell. There were people that had very strong words about it. I think of Mike Freeman, who is an unbelievably respected journalist. He's a USA Today columnist and has been covering the league for, 20, 30 years at this point. He had very strong words at how much the optics of that bothered him. I've spoken to multiple people that have been around the league for a very, very long time who were very much like, all right, he paid his price. He served his suspension. He's been in therapy for this long. Everybody's moving on. And so I think you have those polls. I think that there will be people in the national media that will want to hold their nose. And I think there are those that are just sort of passionate on football. And again, Jason, I'll bring up the Ben Roethlisberger example. I mean, think about everything early in his career, the rape accusations, the motorcycle accident, all of that. And then at some point, it just sort of stopped being a story to some degree. And because he
won. Yeah, right.
Right.
And he was revered. He was hailed walking off that field for the final time.
Right. Nobody was talking about it then.
And
which was so many years later, which is what Deshaun Watson knows. If Deshaun Watson wins the Super Bowl, if he brings the Super Bowl to Cleveland, it'll be a rare person, certainly in Cleveland, that's going to say Deshaun Watson, who allegedly or who was accused of or who once served an 11-game suspension, you'll just lose that. You'll lose that a positive, or is that the right grammatical term?
No, I know what you're saying. You're right. It's like the most recent page in the book is the one that resonates the most. But
I'm just fascinated by this year because it's still fresh and raw.
It is, but to
so
your
that
point,
I know, but it's funny,
period.
Jason, because I even asked. So when I was at the game last week, I actually asked a member of the Browns PR staff, has it come up? Has last year come up? Has the therapy? Has the remaining civil suit? And apparently no one's really asking about it. That it hasn't yet.
Well, there hasn't been a ton of national media around I don't believe.
Right, wait until you're 3 or 4 games into the season.
The local people don't. We're past that.
Jay,
we're done with it.
We just talked about the Johnny Manziel story. There's 3 things that America, and when I say America, I mean fans, media, this whole thing.
Right.
There's 3 things that they love about athletes and celebrity. 1, the rise. 2, the fall. 3,
the comeback.
Yeah. And that's the stage that we're in now. And we'll see how it's handled. How do fans perceive it? I can tell you that fans nationally, no matter, particularly if he has success, they'll enjoy booing him even more.
Yeah.
But locally, he'll be
Nobody
revered.
yeah.
If he brings wins to Cleveland,
That's right. All the
he'll
people
be
who said
remembered
they were going
for
to not
that.
watch anymore, they're all full of shit.
Yeah, they're watching.
99.9% of them are full of shit. They're going to all be
Nobody
watching this year.
boycotted the NFL.
Yeah, no.
You know, we heard that 5 years ago with the kneeling controversy.
But the anthem, exactly.
But guess what? The numbers are back bigger than ever. And
Right.
might there be a temporary ding? Yes. I don't think this was big enough to create that. I really don't.
Yeah.
All right, Aditi, you got anything else for us? What should we look for tomorrow? I mean, how are you going to watch?
Well, if you look at last year's post-joint practices, both head coaches treated the practices really as a game. And, it's funny is that we talked to Cedric Tillman earlier today, and this is obviously the first time that he's ever practiced against another team. He never did that at Tennessee. And he said it kind of felt like a preseason game. And that's just because of the competitiveness, the juice on the practice field. So Thursday is really an opportunity to get to know some of these young guys, to get to know guys like Cameron Mitchell, to get to know Dorian Thompson even more, to get to watch Kellen Mond and see if this is a guy that should be sticking around on the practice squad in some capacity. This is getting to know younger players, again, and like a Cedric Tillman, really, and getting a sense of them, because you're going to need these guys. I'd also pay attention to special teams. Special teams is so notable because a lot of the guys that are playing special teams in the National Football League have never played special teams in college because they were stars in college.
Sure.
So they didn't have to do that. And you had 100-person rosters. So you had guys that were just special teams players there. Now, in order to make a roster, whether you're a fifth safety or whatever, you've got to be doing your work on teams. And the Browns, P.S., made a major change at teams when they brought in Bubba Ventrone. Now, I can tell you, he's a guy that has unbelievable credibility. He played on special teams in the city of Cleveland. He brings all that energy. He brings that focus and import, and, hey, this really is 1/3 of the game. It matters. Look, like we talked last week, I said I'm sorry for bringing up that Jets game. But if you think about that Jets game, if special teams had done a better job in making that PAT
100%,
and then in recovering that onside kick, as much as we talk about should Nick Chubb have fallen down before the goal line, or did the secondary mess up the communication on the Corey Davis touchdown? Yeah, but special teams also could have made a kick and could have recovered that onside kick.
Sure.
Yep.
So pay attention to that a little bit.
Well,
Those are guys that are going to matter.
On that note, Cade York 0 for 2. We talked about him yesterday. Stefanski said, I'm not bringing anybody in. There's not going to be any competition.
Yep.
And no, I'm not worried. Okay, that's what he says to the camera. I got to imagine when he's talking to Bubba, he's at least whispering into Bubba's ear and saying, should I be worried? And the question to you is, should he be worried?
You know what? Right now, it doesn't feel as if there's much worry. This is the nature of kicking, right? Like, even if he makes everything Thursday night and makes everything next week in Kansas City, at some point he is going to miss a kick. I think it's really more about his process, which he has streamlined significantly from a year ago. He's simplified it. He's relying on his leg and not overthinking so much that I need this kind of kick in this weather and this kind of kick in this temperature and this kind of kick in this building. And he's just kicking. All of that, I think, is good. But, Kevin Stefanski has a line. He says confidence comes from demonstrated ability. And so at some point, Cade needs to make these kicks just for himself. He can be rebounding well. He can have the right attitude about it. He can have a good mindset. I mean, I'll tell you, I was watching him when he was going in last week. He was telling the punter where he wanted the ball based on the wind, a little bit to the right, whatever. He didn't seem tight, didn't seem nervous, didn't seem like, okay, there's the weight of the world on me right now. But I'm certainly going to be watching that Thursday night and paying close attention to him. Yeah. Because, again, so much of this is a confidence game. It's like what we do, right?
Kicker.
You feel good, play good.
Right.
And so I is he feeling good?
If they get in the situation where, they're not going to be disappointed if they don't convert on a 3rd and 7 from the 35-yard line. I think they want to put him in that spot to kick. And make kicks.
Right.
The bottom line is once the regular season starts, if he costs them a game, you can't be too patient with a kicker.
No, his leash is getting shorter by the miss. Yeah.
Thanks,
all right, Aditi, always good. It looks like Holyfield's ear is intact, so that picture must be taken pre-Mike Tyson fight.
That's true.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Bye, Aditi.
Bye.
Always good. Aditi Kinkhabwala, she's the Browns preseason sideline reporter, does a fantastic job.